a kind, more like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share their interests together with a similar kind. When they said John Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments and the lectures, fanboys, professional artists and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC.
Welcome to another episode of Hard N.O.C Life. I'm your host, Keith Chow. We're going to talk about San Diego Comic-Con since it was already a week ago that all the nerds descended into Southern California for 4 days, 4.5 days of just cosplay and waiting in lines and looking at stuff and not really buying stuff. I feel like people don't go to Comic-Con to buy stuff, at least not San Diego Comic-Con. They just go there to be seen. Anyway, bunch of stuff came out of the weekend, and I brought some people along tonight to talk about the things that dropped at San Diego. And so it's a panel full of return champions, so there's no need to introduce anyone new. First up, we have he made his debut last time on the cosplay episode. He's the host of Comics and Cosplay at Saturday Morning Cosplay. It's your boy Ian. What's up, Ian?
Hey guys, how's it going?
You've also done a little San Diego recap for the Nerds of Color already on video, so I think you have some things that you are looking forward to that came out of San Diego.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know, I in my video I talked about it. I thought this was kind of a down year for San Diego because there wasn't anything that I thought was just a big story.
Right.
Like, we had years prior, like when there was Avengers or Batman, Superman, like those announcement years, like and maybe that was because this was the first year I wasn't at San Diego.
Right.
But like those years, like those were the only conversations people were having. Those were the only things people were talking about. Like everyone was talking about it, and I felt like you could feel it outside the rest of the country too once I got back. But this year it was just like I call it San Diego Trailer Con because it was just showing trailers of stuff that like you already knew was gonna happen.
Right.
And so there was nothing that I was like, oh snap, you know, like I thought Marvel was gonna at least announce one new movie, but I was shocked.
Right. Next up is another longtime guest on the Nerds of Color's Hard N.O.C Life. He hasn't been on for a while. You may not remember him, but he's still ODU's own criminology professor representing Hampton Roads, Virginia, by way of Harlem, New York. It's Shawn Smith. What's up, Shawn?
Hey, folks. What's going on, man? What's going on?
Welcome back to Hard N.O.C Life. Did you keep up with the news trickling out of San Diego the last few days?
Bits and pieces. I mean, of course, everybody's news source, Facebook, was pretty much where I was getting some of this stuff from. Did hear a little bit more about things like Ant-Man. Obviously, everybody's about to lose their minds over Guardians of the Galaxy, but most of the stuff I was hearing about really just pertained to the Batman, Superman, I mean, that's pretty much what I was hearing about, and I figured, okay, started seeing the leaked images. That's kind of where most of my attention has been anyway, so what a shock. I mean, that's like everybody's attention.
Right.
And then on some level, I guess I'm starting to become more intrigued by the Star Wars stuff. So
yeah,
and the Legend of Korra, like that the whole kind of we're not gonna put it on network anymore. So like I was like, oh well, all right, but I don't know that I was nearly as floored by the news as anybody else because I kind of figured, good for me, I don't have regular TV anyway, so I don't care.
That's how you watch it already.
That's how I watch it now. So like whatever. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
I didn't want this panel to be just a bunch of us talking out of our ass about Comic-Con without having actually been there. So I was fortunate enough to get your boy Random, aka Mega Ran, who was actually at the convention center in San Diego, and he was also at many other places during San Diego Comic-Con because he did about 10,000 shows and 65,000 store appearances and a bunch of other stuff. He also made it onto television. Welcome, Mega Ran, to the Hard N.O.C Life. What's up?
What's going on, everybody?
Are you recovered from your San Diego whirlwind?
Oh man, I'm getting there. I had so much stuff to do the last couple of days that I just completely blew it off just so I could rest. So I think I'm almost there.
Yeah. So I wasn't. I was maybe a little bit exaggerating about the number of appearances that you had at San Diego. You were on a couple panels. I think you were on a panel with Mers.
Yeah, we did
Mike.
Yeah, we did a hip hop and comics panel. My boy Patrick Reed. He's also done this panel at New York Comic Con and a bunch of others. And he asked me to join, and it was an amazing group of guys, man. And so yeah, doing that and then a bunch of shows. I mean, it wasn't 10 million, but more like maybe 10. But it was fun, and I still made time to walk the floor, a little bit, and yeah, so I got a few impressions from what I saw.
Well, we'll definitely talk about a lot of the stuff that came out of San Diego, and at this point, it's just, I think Ian made a really good point about it's not a Comic-Con. It hasn't been a Comic-Con in probably a decade. Hollywood has definitely taken over, and what that means is that San Diego, the biggest news to come out of San Diego is always going to be movie or TV related, and I think the one movie, and we'll go ahead and get this out of the way, the one movie that dominated the discussion during San Diego Comic-Con was the one that didn't actually have a panel. It was just 3 people coming out and then showing 10 seconds of footage, and then like the entire Hall H losing its mind, and that's Batman versus Superman. Zack Snyder really didn't surprise anyone. I think most people kind of assumed there was going to be some kind of Dawn of Justice presence at Comic-Con. But he brought out Ben Affleck, Gal Gadot, and Henry Cavill, showed off the new Wonder Woman costume, and then 10 seconds of footage from the film. The main takeaway from the footage, I think, was just showing Ben Affleck in his he's actually wearing a different suit from the one that's been released, and it's the big bulky anti-Superman armor that he wears in Dark Knight Returns.
Lego Man.
Yeah, he looks like Lego Batman. And there was a really, really great article that I read during all of this that I think was a Vulture article about how the Batman movies kind of rely too much on Frank Miller, and clearly, at least from the footage that they showed, Batman vs. Superman is really kind of a roundabout way of making The Dark Knight Returns. I don't know how I feel about that. Ian, do you have thoughts about the direction that the Dawn of Justice movie is taking?
I started off kind of like meh, and I think DC gets some praise because I think they've definitely piqued my interest in like the casting and stuff that's come out. I've become more interested in it, and I think that now that I recently just learned the Frank Miller Dark Knight story, and I know that's the story they're making, I'm actually even more excited for it because I mean, I'm not a huge Batman fan. Like, I don't know all the best stories. Like, I know the Frank Miller, I know the Killing Joke. I don't know what other great, arcs there are, but I think this is a good one, and it's different to show that hasn't really been done to death.
Right.
So I kind of like the Frank Miller story because I think Frank Miller gives a different air or perspective, whereas other people have kind of superimposed their own idea of it.
Right. No, I mean, I can see that. I think part of the issue with at least where that article is coming from is that the Tim Burton movies were definitely, that came out in '89, like 2 years after Frank Miller changed the world with Dark Knight Returns, and then I guess without you take away the Schumacher ones, but then Batman Begins was clearly based off of Year One. Dark Knight Rises has a lot of Frank Miller influence in it, and I think part of my issue was with, I feel like like Ian said, he's familiar with the Dark Knight stuff, but I think there are so many other like interpretations of Batman that can be seen other than just like Frank Miller's one version of Batman. Raheem, what do you think? I mean, I know that your favorite Batman story is The Killing Joke. Yeah. Would you like to see that be turned into a movie rather than The Dark Knight Returns with Wonder Woman and Cyborg and Aquaman and all these other people in it?
Yeah, I would love to see that. I mean, maybe at some point we will. But I do understand, I guess, the point of trying to bring some other guys into it so that we can hopefully expand the DC universe a little bit and get the moviegoers involved and maybe into these guys. But I don't know, a Killing Joke movie would be pretty cool. I think I'd love to see that.
Well, I know that if they ever made the movie, I think we already know what the theme song is going to be.
Oh, it has to be One Bad Day. But
for those of you who may not be aware, Mega Ran has a really dope song that is all about The Killing Joke, so that's what we're talking about. I'll put a link to it right here when you're watching this on YouTube.
Nice.
Shawn, back to you. I mean, I think the what I was saying about The Dark Knight, and I think part of my issue with why I'm not sure I want The Dark Knight Returns to happen already is that this is supposed to be the first meeting between Superman and Batman, and they've already established Ben Affleck's going to be a veteran Batman, someone who's been under the cowl for many, many years. I don't know why they're going to introduce a Batman that's like done with being Batman. I wrote a post on the Nerds of Color many months ago about if they were going to do that, if they were going to start with a already established Batman in a realistic world, why didn't they just continue with the Nolan ones? But that's neither here nor there. Do you think that it's just like the timing for Dark Knight Returns adaptation's a little weird?
I mean, I guess I could see that perspective, but then at the same time, I guess, see, I'm very late, I guess. I don't have a lot of expectations about this right now, only because, I just feel like at the end of the day, one of the things with Batman that is intriguing to me is the detective side of him, okay? Like the fact that he is like this ultra-brilliant detective, really. And that's actually his superpower. Like, I mean, the technology is, yeah, but at the end of the day, especially once you start pairing him with some of these other iconic figures like Superman and Wonder Woman, whatever, what makes Batman stand out is he is this ultra-intelligent mind. Like he can detect, he can figure things out very quickly and logically and everything like that. I kind of just want that to be played up more. I feel like for all these different interpretations of Batman, the one thing that the criminologist to me kind of wants to see more is, Batman is like a really dope detective. Like that's the thing about Batman that I've always been fascinated by. It's like in the comics, that's how he's getting the Joker. He's not out-muscling the Joker. I mean, yeah, he's stronger than the Joker, but the Riddler and Penguin and all these villains that he has to go up against, at the end of the day, he's using a lot of pretty serious detective work to figure stuff out. I like that Batman. I like that guy. And I don't know, maybe the older, grizzled version that I guess Affleck is supposed to be playing in Dawn of Justice, maybe you'll get to see some of that a little bit more, but I don't know. Like, I hope so. But beyond that, I don't have a lot of expectations about it. And I feel better not having those expectations because I just feel like, I'm either going to, if I do have great expectations, I'm either going to fall on the side of, hate Affleck, oh my God, whatever, or I'm going to be on oh my God, this is the greatest thing that ever happened. I don't want to be on either camp. I just want to be like, look, it is what it is. Okay, they're going to put it out there. Just, take my money because they're going to get it anyway. So let's just see how, but I definitely would like to see more of a turn on, this is how you can be a superhero without having eye beams shooting out of your eyes and icy breath and all this other stuff, because that's what always made Batman cool to me. So, yeah.
So you don't think Christian Bale was a good detective when he was punching Bane in the face? Where's the trigger?
Yeah, not
you wouldn't give it to an ordinary citizen.
Not the most intellectual. Just like, yeah, dude, like not so much. No, not so much.
So am I one of the only people who thought Christian Bale was a great Bruce Wayne? Just not a great Batman.
Don't get it twisted. I love Christian Bale as Batman. Yeah. I think that, I mean, and to be completely candid, I don't have an issue with his bat growl. I kind of dig it in The Dark Knight. He must have friends.
But see, that's the reason why at the end of the day of the Nolan trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises is like I hold that up as like, this amazing movie. Because halfway through that movie, I stopped thinking about it as a superhero movie. That's just like a dope crime thriller at some point. Like, it just stops. It's just like, damn, like, how is he going to stop this dude? And
he doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't at all. He totally doesn't.
Catwoman does. Yeah. I think the further I get away from The Dark Knight Rises, the less I like it. But that's a topic for another episode of Hard N.O.C. I kind of buried the lead a little bit when talking about Dawn of Justice, because I think the biggest news out of Hall H that day was not the 10 seconds of footage that they showed. It was that they finally revealed Gal Gadot in all her Wonder Woman glory. And it got some mixed reviews. I will come out on the side of thinking it looks really great. I think that She looks great as Wonder Woman. I think the costume is great. I think it threads the needle between comic book accurate and practical for a film. Since I have Ian on, and I know you talked a little bit about this during your video, but you're a resident costume and cosplay expert. Where did you fall on the Wonder Woman costume?
I think for me, I like the costume as well. I thought my only criticism, and I think it was more of the shot they used, was it could have had a little bit more color. I hope they just didn't go the all gold route. That's kind of an easy cop out. Which I don't think they'll do. I think that's just that shot. That was a promo shot, and things will change.
It's heavily filtered. You can tell, like it's got like 3 or 5 filters on it.
Definitely. And so I think it looks good. I think the costume itself looks good. My only criticisms had kind of been in the casting of her. Obviously, I mean, I know a lot of people are like, oh, you just wanted someone with bigger boobs to be in there. And I was like, no. Like, I just think, well, okay, I have 2 problems with this whole conversation topic. And it's like, I feel like a lot of the female comic creators now have created this and engendered a lot of this environment where, like, males can't have any criticism or thoughts on female characters, or you're then instantly slut-shaming or, giving bad body images. Because I was like, I think she should probably be a little bit bigger as a person for me to really believe this woman goes toe-to-toe with Superman and Batman. And, like, I'm not asking her for to be China, but, like, you guys remember, like, what Lucy Lawless looked like? She was, like, she wasn't model thin, but she was, like, she's a set woman. Like, she looked like she could handle her own.
Brienne of Tarth, maybe. Like, if you gave Brienne of Tarth, like, long brunette hair, yeah.
It's funny you said that, because one of my friends was like, Brienne of Tarth can't be in every movie.
I know. but what, as Wonder Woman, I mean, she would be like, you know what? Okay, just because she's that damn big. All right, I'm gonna let that go, because it's freaking Wonder Woman, for God's sakes.
But I think some people were like, well, it should be about her acting, and not, really her body type. Which, I mean, sure, that's true. But one, I don't think we don't have a lot of body of work to see what her acting is even like. She was in the Fast and the Furious movies.
Right.
Like, that's not Oscar award-winning acting going on in those movies. But I think there is something to say, especially in a comic book movie, what your body type looks like. Because let's change the tables. Let's say they cast me, and pretend I'm white and whatever, but they cast me as Superman.
Sure.
Like, would anyone have some problems being, like, as small as I am being Superman? I think a few eyebrows would be raised being like...
Well, but that brings us back to, like, Michael Keaton as Batman. That was one of the main criticisms of Michael Keaton, was that he's 5'6", he's, like, 105 pounds, and how is he going to be convincing as Batman? And, I actually had the opportunity to interview Michael Uslan, who was the executive producer of all the Batman movies. And he was, we always make the joke that if the internet existed back in 1989, how would the internet have reacted to Michael Keaton? And he even says that, like, he was the apoplectic, fanboy when he found out that Tim Burton had cast Michael Keaton. And the point that was made to him from Burton was that it's not the muscles that makes the character, right? That it's about who the person is. So, I mean, I still will reserve judgment on Wonder Woman based on, Gal Gadot. I think Gal Gadot, at least in that photo, to me looked convincing enough as Wonder Woman that her slight frame doesn't bother me. I feel like Wonder Woman has been depicted both as really muscular and also very, like, thin too. I think it's kind of like a suspension of disbelief that she's an Amazonian warrior. I don't know.
It wasn't a big issue. I was just like, it was just kind of an afterthought. I was like, well, I think I would like them to maybe pick someone that doesn't look like a supermodel per se. That would be nice. But I'm not discounting the movie. I think it's going to be terrible because of it.
Right. Well, one of the criticisms that the internet's always going to have jokes, and one of the criticisms about the costume is that it looks too much like Xena's. And you've probably seen all the photo memes of Lucy Lawless and kind of like looking confused at why they're. But part of my issue with that is that for years, haven't fans been saying, like, to make a Wonder Woman costume you need to use like Xena as a template, and they kind of did. So now they're getting criticized for it. What do you think, Raheem? I mean, is it hypocritical to like say, you should base it on this Amazon warrior like Xena, and then when they do it, they're like, why did you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I didn't hear anybody say that back then. I guess that we should we should base things on Xena, but
maybe it's just
that has. It's just it's just an internet thing, man. The internet will hate no matter what. So it's just the way it is. I think we're just kind of making jokes. I mean, I noticed on Will Wheaton's show, he's like, "Remember Xena? Obviously they do too." So it's just a joke. It's not going to stop anyone from disliking the character. I feel like, I do feel like it's a good idea to build off of Xena because she's like the quintessential badass woman, So
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I have no problem with it, but I do feel like the internet is just joking. I don't feel like it's something that's gonna really affect anybody's satisfaction with it, with the character or the movie.
Maybe I'm just too into cosplay and costumes, but if you look at them side by side, they really aren't alike.
Yeah,
like,
they don't look anything alike.
There are a lot of differences. Like it's really well done because it references still the the eagle chest plate part. It doesn't have a big long dress. And the funny thing is, like, all my friends, like, I have one friend who's seriously like a hardcore Xena fan. Like, that's all she cosplays, all the different versions of Xena's costumes, which is like minor changes. And even her and a lot of their friends are like, that costume looks nothing like that. Like, that's a silly joke.
It's just because there's only other one warrior woman that they can compare it to, and Xena's Xena's it. So, but anyway, that was DC. I mean, I think the consensus is that DC's movie division at least won the buzz out of San Diego. The other movie that had a lot of buzz, but like Ian kind of mentioned, that Marvel didn't really have a big bomb to drop on San Diego other than Guardians of the Galaxy 2 coming out, and we kind of, I mean, if you track the hype that the movie that is getting this weekend, it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to make a sequel, but they officially announced that it's going to come out in 2017. There were rumblings of Joaquin Phoenix playing Doctor Strange. They had officially announced Evangeline Lilly and Corey Stoll being in Ant-Man. So there was still definitely a big Marvel Studios presence after the Guardians. What Marvel Studios film do you have the most anticipation for?
I think it's definitely. I think it's Ant-Man. I mean, I think because Ant-Man is such a, compared to some of the other ones that have already hit the screen now, Ant-Man is such a marginal character. I think even Thor. I thought Thor was marginal, but I know Thor has a following, and I know Stan Lee loves the mythology of Thor already. So they have put some time into Thor prior to even the Marvel Studios treatment. But Ant-Man is one of those properties that I feel like represents Marvel and Disney's now saying, okay, we know that you people will go see these movies. Great. We know that it's not just fanboys. Like, kids will go see it. Old people will go see it. Great. So now that we've dug into the top shelf here, let's see who's at the second tier of this. And Ant-Man, honestly, because of the way he's been treated historically, I feel like definitely there's room to make that a really compelling movie, and kind of a different take too. Because I mean, we all know that he's got. I don't think they're going to play it up in the movie, but we know he's got that whole domestic violence part of it, where it's like he's a troubled guy.
The movie is going to have two Ant-Mans. Like, the first one is Michael Douglas, and then
the Hank Pym is played by Michael Douglas, but Paul Rudd is playing Scott Lang, who's the second Ant-Man, and I think he's the one that's going to take the mantle going forward. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned Ant-Man, because before we came on, Ian had talked about the thing about Ant-Man is that it's the production of it, at least, has been very troubling as far as the actors have been coming and going. Right. Edgar Wright famously dropped out, and they replaced him. I forget who they replaced him. Oh, they replaced him with Peyton Reed. Does that bode well for the production, Ian?
I think it's now Marvel is starting to. I mean, I'm not gonna say that the House of Mouse is about to collapse, but I think it's maybe showing some chinks of armor that they're feeling so confident in everything that they do that they're like, oh, well, we can lose our director, we can lose these people, and now some people are just kind of like, hey, I know you guys are big and you can make these $1 million franchises, but my artistic, worth means something, and I'll walk away from a project. So I don't know. I think, because Marvel name is on it, it'll do fine, it'll do well, even if, it's not as great as it potentially could have been.
But hasn't Marvel kind of proven that, like, I mean, they've weathered that before with Kenneth Branagh and even Jon Favreau to a certain extent, leaving Iron Man, and they're not hesitant to replace actors. It's like, oh, Terrence Howard, you don't want to play Rhodey anymore? We'll hire Don Cheadle, and like Ed Norton doesn't want to play balls. Let's get Mark Ruffalo. So it's like they've never been afraid to just like drop you at the or whatever, and just move on. I mean, Raheem, when you look at the Marvel Studios movies, are they? I made this joke before we went live that I feel like with the Guardians of the Galaxy and with Ant-Man, they're basically at this point just trolling DC. They're like, hey, you guys can't make movies with Batman and Superman enough. We're going to trot out Rocket Raccoon and Doctor Strange, and you're just going to have to deal with it. And we're going to still make $1 billion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it's like a big joke. I mean, they almost know what's, they got marketing down. I mean, we also talked about them putting millions of dollars into Guardians of the Galaxy to the point where, a raccoon and a talking tree are are more well known than, your top 10 DC guys. So, like, I think, I don't know, man. I feel like it's a situation where I don't think they're just putting out garbage. I mean, I honestly got to say I didn't expect the Captain America movie to be great.
Oh, right.
And it was amazing.
Pretty great.
So, I mean, I went to see it 3 times. Like, yeah. So when that happens, I don't think, and it's almost like the WWE, and I hate to make a wrestling comparison, but WWE is the only game in town in wrestling, so people are like, oh man, this is bad for competition. They're gonna do crap, and then they started the WWE Network, and you're getting free pay-per-views, and they're like, well, so what's the impetus for them to make good pay-per-views now when they got your money, and then they surprise you. They pop off a really great pay-per-view or some really great matches. So I think Marvel's got a lot in the tank. I don't think it's over yet. This might be somewhat of a downswing because they're not, the titles. I think the next few are not as exciting on the surface, but I feel like they got some more to go. I think the next few will be good.
I'm not even that well versed on. I'm not even that well versed on Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm so excited for this movie.
What has you excited? I'm always fascinated with people because I'm a big Guardians fan. Like, I went back and read the last run. So, like, is it like the characters, the cast, or just all the overall hype that people have been saying it's so good?
Yeah, it's a mix of all that. It's definitely the hype, but that first trailer that came out, I forget when it came out, but like that initial trailer.
It was a while, yeah.
It was a while ago, but with the one with the hooked on a feeling and everything like that, and, like, it was just so well made that I thought, wow, they really, because when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, when they showed the concept art, I was like, yeah, whatever. People aren't going to care about this movie. This is going to be their first big bomb. And then as they started releasing like I said, the trailers are what sold me, and then now all this positive hype. I'm a big action figure collector, and I was telling myself I'm not going to buy the Marvel Legends Guardians of the Galaxy figures. Now I'm like hunting every Target and Toys R Us looking for those figures because I want to build Groot because Groot is the Build-A-Figure. So like, I'm getting swept up in the Guardians hype. And again, I didn't even know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were like 10 years ago. Like, I was never a big Marvel guy, so the fact that Marvel's going in this like cosmic and like sorcery. Like, they're going there, and like DC's still just trying to get Batman and Superman off the ground.
Well, on the Guardians of the Galaxy thing, I'm excited about it too, but I'm excited about Guardians of the Galaxy for the same reason that I'm looking forward to seeing Ant-Man, which is, at this point now, like I said, Marvel has clearly figured out our top-tier guys, your Hulk, your X-Men, your Spider-Man. People will go see these movies, will make money off it, great. But at some point, there's going to be a calling, and it has been a calling from, all of us, diehard nerds or whatever, dig deeper into the pool here. There's more properties. There's more stuff you can really explore. And if Guardians of the Galaxy does well, Guardians is definitely one of those properties that I feel like if you're not a hardcore comic head, and quite frankly a hardcore Marvel head, I don't know that you know what the hell that is, but it looks great on screen, so let's go. And the same thing with Ant-Man. Ant-Man is not something that you would expect your kind of, you know, middle of the road comic book fan to really know that much about. But if those properties actually do well, then I wonder, is that going to start opening the door even more for some of the characters that we've talked about on Hard Knock Life? That, hey, are they ever going to touch Black Panther? Are they ever going to touch Iron Fist? I mean, no, I'm serious. I mean, like, literally at that point, because now I'm thinking, wait a minute, you know, it's how far of a stretch is it if Ant-Man did well? Okay, if you can make Ant-Man a successful movie, come on, man. I mean, give Black Panther his damn movie at that point. Like, let's go, you know, before Idris Elba gets too old or whatever. You know?
And I feel like I think Shawn makes a great point, because I think if anything, Marvel has the capital to do that. That, you know, they can say like, we're going to do the. Well, first of all, they've already done the African American superhero movie with like 3 Blade movies, so it's not like it's not been done before. So they can kind of say, and I think Marvel owns the rights to Blade again. So
yeah,
that technically wasn't Marvel Studios though.
Right,
exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, but at least like there is a precedent for African American superhero from Marvel, and I don't see why they wouldn't do a Black Panther movie. And on top of that, Kevin Feige was quoted as saying over the San Diego Comic-Con weekend that, you know, it's a possibility that Black Captain America and female Thor could be woven into the movies. You know, I mean, who knows if they'll stick around long enough in the comics, so by the time they get to like Phase 4 or 5, they can even cast Anthony Mackie as Captain America. But I don't see why the Marvel wouldn't do that, just because, like I said, they've cracked the code. They know how to make anybody into a movie, and it will become the biggest movie in the world. Like, people forget, before 2008, Iron Man was not an A-list character.
No, it's totally B.
Iron Man was barely B-list in the mid 2000s, and now it is arguable that Iron Man is the most popular Marvel superhero, more popular than Spider-Man and the X-Men, at least in like the mainstream. Maybe not among comics heads, but like more kids probably like Iron Man more than they like Spider-Man or the X-Men now, and that's because of these movies.
But see, I think it's a commitment for Marvel to want to do that. Like, you're absolutely right. They could make a Black Panther movie. They could do a Blue Marvel, the black guy that's so random, and send Mighty Avengers, and it would sell. But Marvel, I don't ever see the desire there, because, like, look at the role Mackie had in Captain America 2. Like, he did a great job and killed with what he had, but, like, that was nothing like how important of a role he had played in Brubaker's run. Like, his character was basically Black Widow. And they regulated him to the side for like a couple of scenes. So I just don't see that desire, because I feel like, because you do raise a good point that was Blade had already set that precedent and established that. And I have that argument with some friends of mine that I think we've regressed back from some of the progress we had for Black heroes in Hollywood in the 90s. But, you know, Disney, that's why I was shaking my head. Is that Disney owns Marvel now, and we have to filter that through the Disney lens of we sell things, and that's how we make our money. I mean, the movies sell well, but we double down on licensing, you know, action figures, toys, T-shirts.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought up the Disney connection, because I think the other aspect of this kind of equation is that if you look at the other major mega franchise that Disney owns with the Star Wars movies, and, you know, for all intents and purposes, John Boyega is playing the lead of at least Episode 7. We don't know if he's going to make it past Episode 7, because he's so Black. And Black don't have a
death clock
in the galaxy far, far away. Unless you're Lando Calrissian, you don't really have a good precedent. But I mean, at least for this first film in the new trilogy, they aren't afraid to put cast a Black lead. So, is it possible that the Disney acquisition of Marvel doesn't, you know, prevent a Black Panther movie? Raheem, what do you think? I mean, are you a Star Wars head? Are you excited for Episode 7?
I am. Again, I'm cautious, you know, because of the last trilogy, and just I don't know. I'm very very cautious to get my hands on it. You know, but I'm excited. I mean, this news of a black lead is totally news to me. I didn't know that was confirmed to happen, and it's surprising. So I don't know, man. I think.
I mean, and I don't know that he's. I mean, the movie's still shooting. I mean, for all instance, Han Solo is probably the lead of the film, but in all of the casting announcements, John Boyega's name is always first. I don't know if that's alphabetical or if that's just because he's playing the main character. All the rumors are pointing to him being the main character, so we'll see. I don't know.
Well, that's exciting. That's really exciting.
The fact that they're not afraid to basically make the Luke Skywalker for a new generation and be a black man. Is it possible that Black Panther can also come out of that same, corporation?
I think so. I'm a little more optimistic about Black Panther than Ian is. I think, I hope, I can hope, but I think it'll happen. I really do. Eventually, I mean, I can't say they're going to run out of characters because that's not true because there's a million of them. But but I feel like in today's world, especially with the internet, and eventually, I feel like the fans get what they want eventually, and so I think it will happen as long as there's enough fan demand for it.
Right.
And that's a critical point because I've often questioned how much do people really want a Black Panther? I mean, I know that we talk about it on this community, this NOC community, but I also know that, look, I'm African, he's African. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want him on screen, like, no doubt. But that's a very personal thing for me. Same thing with Storm. Like, I honestly felt like, look, there was no way I wasn't going to get, Storm issue 1 because it's Storm. It's like, I've always liked the fact that she's actually African and like that's an integral part of who she is. But okay, I'm digressing. So my thing is like I do wonder sometimes do people out there really, do the general masses really care that much about a Black Panther or any kind of, like I said, more marginal character?
But again, I think that's why I feel like Marvel has the capital to do that because who gives a crap about the Guardians of the Galaxy? Who cares about Ant-Man?
Yeah, until this year. No,
exactly. Right. Yeah. I feel like you don't have to even if Black Panther doesn't have like this hardcore fan base of like basically what we're saying, he doesn't have a hardcore fan base of white fanboys. I don't think it matters at this point. You know what I mean?
Well,
I feel
even black fans. Like, look, I mean, I think in general, like, I really don't. Black Panther.
Nobody likes Black Panther, is what you're saying.
I'm saying, I'm saying in the pantheon of fandom. I mean, you gotta admit, Black Panther falls into a very small piece of this world. One that's dear to my heart, but let's be real. I mean, he's not.
Isn't there a rumor that there are scenes in Age of Ultron that take place in Wakanda, or is that just I'm making that up?
I don't know. I haven't heard that, but
I thought I read a rumor somewhere and maybe that's like a Easter egg that something takes place in Wakanda or something. Like I'd be remiss if we didn't mention at least any comic book news since it is a Comic-Con. But I felt like the biggest comic book announcement that came out of the convention was that Marvel was once again going to be making Star Wars comic books. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, Marvel was the one that actually published the Star Wars comics before it went to Dark Horse for many, many years. And Dark Horse put out great Star Wars books, but ever since Lucasfilm was bought up by Disney, they've since cut off the expanded universe. That's not canon anymore, and now anything that comes out has to be tied into the actual canon of the universe. So that these new Marvel comic books are going to be that. And I think, to me, the one I'm most excited about is a Princess Leia comic. She's going to get her own solo book in these. Not solo, no pun intended. But she's going to get a solo book in the new Marvel Star Wars books. And I know, Ian, you had mentioned that you were pretty excited for the Marvel Star Wars too.
Yeah, I mean, I've never read the Dark Horse stuff. I have a friend that reads it, and it's like, I'm not a huge Star Wars head. Like, I've watched all the movies. I've read a few of the books when I was much younger. But, the talent, they're putting Kieran Gillian on it, and he's kind of like their up-and-coming lead writer to kind of be the guy that writes the weird stuff for Marvel. Like, he did Young Avengers, he did Journey into Mystery, he did AVX Consequences, the stuff that, like, just got everyone super hyped. And so the fact that he's on it means I'm going to probably read, when it relaunches. So that's what's got me excited. If it had been pretty much anyone else, I'd probably be like, whatever.
No, I mean, I have to be honest. I mean, I've read some of the Dark Horse. I haven't been like, I was never a big, I was never a big expanded universe person when it came to Star Wars. Anyway, I was basically just the movies, and honestly, just the first 3 movies. I could really care less. I'm actually hoping that this new deal with Disney means that they're going to remake episodes 1, 2, and 3, but I don't think that's going to happen. But no, I am really excited about the Marvel. I mean, the books look gorgeous. At least the art that they showed at Comic-Con looks fantastic, and that they may actually get me, interested in buying these comics too. I don't know. I mean, Shawn, you're a bit of a Star Wars fan, but would you be a big enough fan that you would buy comic books based on the property?
I'm not sure if I'm a Star Trek.
Oh, that's true.
But I will say this: I'm looking to get the Hayden Christensen taste out of my mouth. I really, I do. I'm still.
You and the rest of the world. I think.
Well, no, but my thing is this, and this is just trivia about me. I am the kind of person that I will go see movies that have bad acting in them because I generally find some comedy in that. But that's one of those $10 experiences that I just feel like I still am waiting to get that money back. So, and so my thing is, if nothing else, this just has to surpass that very low bar for me to say, okay, I'm better now. Okay, right. So I have a very low bar for this right now.
Right.
But yeah, so.
Yeah, and I apologize for confusing your Star Trek fandom for Star Wars.
That's okay. That's all right.
that's a cardinal sin.
It really is, but that's all right.
We're running short on time. One of the last things I wanted to get to was Ian kind of jokingly called San Diego Trailer Con, and because that's actually the biggest, the biggest things that come out of Comic-Con is always the movie trailers. Like we already talked about the Dawn of Justice trailer, the Mad Max trailer, which looks fantastic. And I'm not even a big Mad Max fan, and I want to go see that. But there was a trailer that came out around the time San Diego Comic-Con came out that I do want to talk about, and it's for a movie called Megalomania, which is a documentary about my boy Mega Ran. So can you talk a little bit about the documentary that's coming out in a couple weeks on DVD and digital?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We had a good friend of mine who's a director, Michael Cardoza, had an idea to follow me on a tour. He's like, man, you tour so much, I wonder what it's like. And I was like, well, why don't you hop in the van? And so we did. We started at PAX of last year, PAX Prime, and we played main stage, and it was a really, really crazy story. We played with the Proto Men, and it was like an all Mega Man night. And I got a chance to meet Keiji Inafune, the creator of Mega Man. And so it was a crazy time. And so there's plenty of stories about that, and in between that, we went on a weekend tour, which was through Phoenix, LA, and Vegas, and so we just chronicled everything, the good, bad, and the ugly, all the things that can go right on a tour, all the things that can go wrong, and it goes into a lot of background story of the Random and Mega Ran experience that a lot of people didn't know. So it's but yeah, it'll be out very soon. There is a trailer on the YouTubes. Eat Dad did a really cool write-up on us, and a couple other folks have been talking about it. So I'm really excited to bring it to people, just to try something new. So after this, I'm going to go on a tour of screenings. So I'm going to go to like independent movie theaters, and rather than, because some of our fans I notice are very introverted, and the thought of a club or a sweaty, crowded experience like Comic-Con is terrifying to a lot of people. So I want to just try to, put them into some seats at a local theater and just play it on the screen, and we just eat popcorn and just chat and hang out.
That's awesome. When does it drop on DVD and digital for folks who want to watch it on the screens in their own home?
August 25th. It will be on DVD. We're working on Blu-ray as well, but that's kind of expensive. So, but yeah, it should be a lot of fun. There is a second trailer that will be coming out next week. So just to keep the excitement going, we're going to just keep some trailers coming. We talked about Trailer Con, and it's funny because that's, I'm just as immersed in the gaming industry as comics, and E3 was last month, and it was the same thing. It's just like, look at this great game that you're going to get maybe 2 years from now. So it's the same thing. So the trailer phenomena is just everywhere, and Yeah, when I see the 2015 or 2016 come on the screen, I'm like, oh, come on. I completely shut down when that happens, you know. So it's a real tease.
Well, but fortunately, the trailer for Megalomania is out now, and that movie's coming out in like 3 weeks. So look up, I guess, go to megaran.com to find like screenings in your area, and then like I said, if you how will folks be able to order the DVD and streaming?
Oh, well, I'm working on some stuff with YouTube or even with iTunes where you can just order and stream it straight from there. If not through there, you can order the DVD, and then you'll get a link sent right to your email. So
Awesome.
yeah, you can just pop it on your big screen at home.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to end it on that. I want to thank my panel tonight for just geeking out with me about all things Comic-Con. Start off with Random, a.k.a. Megaran, a.k.a. Raheem. As you said, find a.k.a. everything. And find out about his movie Megalomania and his website Megaran.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at Megaran. Thanks for being on the show, Raheem.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you.
Also, big thanks to Shawn, who's about to fall asleep any second now.
I'm good now. Yeah. Been sucking out coffee the whole time, man. I'm up. Let's go.
He's I want to thank him for being back on the show. You can follow him on the internets, I guess, but he won't tell you how. And finally, big thanks to Ian for being back on the show, and find him on the Twitters at Comics and Cosplay. He's also the Tumblr Saturday Morning Cosplay. Thanks for being on the show once again, Ian.
Thanks, guys. It was fun.
And I'm your host, Keith. Follow me at The Real Chow, and follow at The Nerds of Color on Twitter. And we'll see you next time.
Well, it's the NOC in full color, you see me? The Hard Knock Life, comics, movies, and TV, yeah. Pop culture with a different perspective. Watch it on your screen, hit play, so check this. This is the Hard Knock Life, but not the chica kind. More like the people in the world seeking perspectives with a different line. The kids who share their interests together with a similar kind. When they said John Glover for Spider-Man, they didn't mind. The activists, directors, comments, and the lectures. Fanboys, professional artists, and professors. Maybe a nerd who's just like you, talking about the things that you like too. So I invite you to the NOC.